Hi there. Welcome to Bourbon Turntable. We are the show that blends the love of music with the love of whiskey. With me tonight, as always, is my good friend, Drew Crawley. Drew, what's up, bud?
Oh man, all kinds of things. As the time of we are recording this, I am in between days of studio work on this next album. So we did a lot of
Awesome.
keys and some cello parts and some bass parts today. And whenever we wake up tomorrow, we're gonna go back in, do some drums, do some vocals, maybe some mandolin. We'll see.
Yeah,
We got a full day, and then back to the regular grindstone of the work
yeah.
week.
I seem to remember when I was in the studio with you back several months ago for a day that I
Yeah.
suggested mandolin on one of the songs. So,
It's coming. It's coming.
okay.
The problem is neither Lorenzo nor myself or anyone else in our band plays mandolin, so we actually have to hire a real musician to
Yeah.
figure this out. So we'll see what happens with that. But there
Well,
will be mandolin parts, whether or not we do them with MIDI keyboards or if we actually pay a real player. So
whatever it
we'll
takes.
we'll see what
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah. So
How about yourself?
I'm doing all right. Kind of had a rough week of it, but feeling much better right now. And
Good.
we've already recorded one show. We recorded the show that you saw last week with the guys from Mojo Thunder. So that was a lot of fun. But tonight, we've got something a little different for you. We're going to be taking a look back at our favorite things from 2023. And not just favorite anything, but favorite things that we talk about on our show. So we're not
Hmm.
going to talk about, our favorite, you know, meal or favorite TV show. No, we're going to be talking about some of the favorite things from music and whiskey, as you would
Outstanding.
probably expect. And I don't know what Drew's going to say. He doesn't know what I'm going to say. So who knows? He could probably guess on a few of them, and I could probably guess on a few of his.
Most
But
likely.
we won't waste anybody's time with that kind of guessing. But if you want to play along at home, if you want to list out, okay, these are the whiskeys that Kevin and Drew each liked for 2023, and then you kind of score yourself and you know play stupid games, win stupid prizes, I guess. But anyway, so that's what we're going to be doing today. I think it'll be a lot of fun. Maybe even talk a little bit about some of our favorite shows that we've done during 2023 as well. So, but before we get into all that, we want to tell you about Bar Cart Co-op. Bar Cart Co-op is a collection of friends who produce content for the whiskey enthusiast. We have Distillers Talk with Alan Bishop and Christy Atkinson. Distillers Talk is a show where they will interview distillers from across the country and around the world about unique distilling techniques, unique grains that are used, uh, you name it, they get into it. It's a very, very cool way to learn more about how the whiskey that is in your bottle actually got there. Alan also does One Piece at a Time Distilling Institute. One Piece at a Time Distilling Institute is where he will take questions from distillers. Maybe they're legal distillers, maybe they're not. He doesn't discriminate. But you submit questions to Alan, he'll produce a YouTube video in a response and give you an answer to your question. It's a kind of happens randomly, so just follow One Piece at a Time Distilling Institute so you don't miss it. And we also have My Whiskey Den with our friends Pat and Mike and Mitch. They air their show every Monday night, 9 o'clock Eastern, 8 o'clock Central. Always a good time. My Whiskey Den is where craft whiskey is king. Join in and have a good time with the people in the chat. So, got one more thing to tell you about. Well, I won't tell you. You know who does.
All right, don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, hit the bell notification to find out when new episodes come out, which is every Wednesdays on all of your streaming services everywhere, Apple, Spotify, whatever other ones there are, and the YouTube where you can watch the live recording itself.
Thanks a lot, Mike. We really appreciate it. I don't know what we'd do without you. I would have had to do that, or Drew would have had to do that. So,
Nobody wants that.
yeah, you're shouldering the load. Appreciate it. All right, so we're just gonna go right into whiskey of the year. So the kind of the rules, as loose as the rules may be, that Drew and I set up for this is whiskey of the year, album of the year, music experience of the year. That's what we're going to talk about today. Now, when we get to the year end, we'll have those categories and maybe a couple others. But we're going to tell you between 2 and 4 of our favorite whiskeys of the year, albums of the year, and music experiences of the year so far, because we're kind of at the halfway point of 2023. So, Drew, let's start with you and your whiskey of the year nominees, if you had to make a nominee today.
Let's say the contenders are tough because we're not really in full whiskey hunting season just yet. So I think the back half of 2023 might be a little stronger than the front half. But I'll start with one that I'm actually drinking on tonight. And it's something that you and our friend Mark introduced me to, and that is the Obtainium Light Whiskey from MGP. Now, I love bourbon and I love rye whiskey. You do as well. But sometimes it can get boring and sometimes I can get priced out of the market. So anytime I need a little palate shock, I'll either reach for some kind of Armagnac or I will try to branch out somewhere in the craft whiskey or light whiskey category. And this has been one that I've really enjoyed. So this one in particular is a single barrel from Mr. Whiskers in Franklin, Tennessee, that I picked up the last time I was in Nashville.
Okay.
And since I happen to be coming back to Nashville as we are talking now, I grabbed that bottle. And this one in particular is 6 years old, and it is 127.2 proof. So I'm
Okay.
enjoying this one a good bit.
A 6-year-old light whiskey.
Hmm.
Okay. That seems kind of young for a light whiskey.
It is, but it's very different flavor profile wise. Heavy on the florals, heavy on the vanillins. There's
Cool.
almost no like oak influence to it at all, and there's almost no spice. It is almost all the floral and almost all the vanilla. So
Interesting.
it's very different flavor profile. Kind of reminds me of like some of the true, you know, the pure vanilla extract kind of flavor notes and things like
Yep.
that. So enjoy this one. It's a good way to kind of shock my palate back into paying attention. So I've enjoyed that one just as a small departure from your standard Kentucky bourbon profile so far this year.
No. Interesting. Like it. What else you got?
Couple other ones that I've really enjoyed. And this I promise I will mention a bourbon, but the Nika Straight from the Barrel. I've picked up a couple bottles of that throughout this year. You and I have both kind of been on a little bit of a kick on single malts. And so just a little bit of a different look with some Japanese single malt. And the Straight from the Barrel is really nice. It's not a full barrel proof, as you might think. There is some water added to it, if you do a little research on that, but no filtration of any kind, no carbon, no chill filtration, that kind of thing. And I think it's a really unique look at barley as a grain. And you really get some of those more earthy tones out of it rather than the cereal grains. So just a little bit of like almost mushroom or like foragey kind of notes on the back end. It's not quite as far dark as coffee, but it's not quite as bright as grass. So it's kind of right in that in between thing. And that's another one that I've really enjoyed as far as kind of the earthy tones and palate shockers, I guess, so to speak. And then my third one, I'll just go ahead, is the Driftless Glen. All of their releases, any single barrel, any standard release, anything I can get on. You and I talked about them quite a bit at the end of last year, but it was actually in 2023 that I purchased my own bottle, I think from the basement of your house on sealbox.com, January or February. We did a little group purchasing, and I've just been a huge fan ever since. I love the bottle design. I love the distillate they're putting in. It's just a really, really nice homage to traditional bourbon, but just it's enough of its own spin on it. The other thing I really like, I get like a clover kind of a note in a lot of their products that I really, really enjoy. It's not grassy in terms of like new or young, but
Right.
it's kind of got the sweet herbal thing. and I really, really like that one. It's a good delineator from the traditional sweet notes or sweet aromatic things that we typically get. So those are three that I've really enjoyed so far this year, and I'm excited to see what
Okay.
else is out there.
Yep.
What about you?
Well, what I've got in my glass. Cheers.
Cheers.
Oh, it's so good. Is this Westward American Single Malt barrel pick from Sealbox. It is 125 proof. It does not drink it. Um, it's gorgeous. It's lots and lots of different fruit. It's like a fruit basket in a glass. You get a lot of,
Awesome.
and mostly your lighter fruits, apple, peach, pear, but it's fantastic. Um, you, I don't know if they still got it. I did go and order a backup bottle because this one started going pretty quickly. So check that out. I really enjoy it. It's the first thing I've ever had from Westward, but probably won't be the last.
Fantastic.
Second I got is this Henderson Falls from Alan Bishop and Spirits of French Lick. This is kind of special. It is a mash bill of 80% corn, 10% rye, 10% malted barley. And the corn is Amanda Palmer corn, which is a varietal of corn that Alan actually developed back in his farmer days when he still farms, but when that was his kind of main deal. It might be the favorite thing that Alan's made through Spirits of French Lick.
Yep.
That might be my favorite.
It's pretty damn good. I don't want to interrupt you.
Yeah,
but
no, please.
Without implicating anyone in any kind of activity that they would not know, and without giving any secrets, I've got a bottle of something special coming to you next week from Alan that is primarily Amanda Palmer corn. So
awesome.
when I see you Friday or Saturday of next week, I'll have that to you. But
well,
got some little surprises coming.
Now I'm excited. All right. Whew. Now, surprises from Alan are for us anyway. Those are good surprises.
Every time.
Yeah. For his wife Kim, surprises may not always be what we love. Another one is this sleight of hand brandy from Iron Root Republic. So here I'll tell you this story. You remember we had one of our bourbon fellowships a couple months ago where we had just an obnoxious table of single barrels from a local store. Okay.
As we tend to do.
Yeah. And they're all private selection picks and tasted this, tasted that. And I may have mentioned something about brandy. And somebody said, "Yeah, I really don't like brandy that much." And I said, "Hang on." So I found whatever corner or closet or cabinet I had this bottle hidden in, and pulled it out and let one of our friends at that group try it. And so I poured him a little bit and just went about talking with other folks. And he came back to me later and he goes, "This was the best thing I've had all night." So you got a table full of some of the best private selection picks from any store, anywhere. And Iron Root Sleight of Hand Brandy was his number one pick for what he had that whole evening. That kind of tells you what's going on there. What the licorice folks, those Mad Gingers over in Texas are doing.
They don't play around.
They do not play around. They're quite good. And then lastly, I'll just mention this one more as a fourth. And we actually shared this with our friends from Mojo Thunder last week from Whiskey Thief. It is from a single barrel that I pulled there. It is 77% corn, 15% rye, and 8% malted barley. I think it was 117 proof, 6 years old. And it's probably the best bottle that I've had from them. And I've had some really good bottles from them. So
yeah, that's phenomenal whiskey. Phenomenal.
Yeah.
Good.
So those are four that are definitely worth checking out. So, all right, album of the year. What do you got?
Dude, this is so hard. This is so hard. So I'm gonna go ahead and get my two obvious ones out of the way, and then hopefully the other couple of ones that I have will get it, fully some new recommendations. So the new Rustin Kelly album was a big deal to me. And folks that have listened for a while know that I am a fan of anything and everything Rustin does. We finally got a divorce record, and we got a record from him after 2 years of sobriety.
Yeah.
So I was looking forward to this one. I've shared with you and some other folks on the podcast, I'm several years out from my own experiences with both of those things. And so this record was a big, meaningful one for me. And then the other one was the new Jason Isbell record, Weather Vanes.
Yeah.
I would not be surprised if that made it on both of our album of the year contender list. In my estimation, is probably his best writing since the Southeastern record back in 2014. Just very mature isn't the right word because it's not necessarily mature subject matter, but just very, very evolved and refined songwriting. The other thing that I liked is Jason Isbell, I think, is an underrated kind of guitar god. He doesn't get the respect for that in the broader culture that I think he deserves, and this record shows that off fully. So love the guitar work, love the songwriting. I've only gotten to listen to it a few times through. It's only been out maybe 2 or 3 weeks since the time of this recording. So those are the two. Duh, of course, Drew's going to say those picks.
Yes.
Got some other ones that I've really enjoyed. One of those is the Noah Kahn Stick Season Deluxe record. So Stick Season actually came out in 2022. I think it was a 9-track album, and then he put out 8 more songs about a week ago, and it's just incredible. The writing has continued to evolve. Same themes that he put out on the record, which I really respected. I think a lot of artists kind of do the sophomore slump album where they put out a great first record and then they get 4 really good songs towards their second record and then just do filler.
Right.
And so for him to say, hey, rather than put out another record, it's not quite as good, I'm going to do a deluxe edition of my first record and continue on this theme that I've been thinking on. So that one has to be in my contention for sure. And then getting to see him live, not to spoil anything for the rest of the episode, but it's pretty cool. And then second one for me was a guy that's new to me completely, Matt Mason. And he put out a record in February called Never Had to Leave. One of the coolest things that I've gotten to listen to, Matt is a former worship leader with a megachurch that a lot of us are familiar with, and kind of left that whole world to pursue a career in writing his own music. And a lot of stuff about mental health on that record, a lot of stuff about just kind of grappling with what it means to be a human out in certain contexts and everything like that. But he uses a lot of the tropes or motifs of worship music in his writing paired with punk music. So two things that I am very familiar with and love. So Matt Mason, Never Had to Leave. That was a big new record for me.
Okay.
So
now I'm intrigued. I can see you saying contemporary Christian music and punk music. How you get modern day worship music and punk music together, that I've got to listen to.
It's pretty incredible. So, you have a musical brain and you're very familiar with this world, but if you listen to Hillsong and Elevation and Bethel and all these other kind of worship bands that are producing
Right.
a lot of the music that people sing in churches, there's certain things that you'll notice. Certain repetitive natures to the chorus, big
Yes.
octave jumps between chorus one and chorus two,
Yes.
and big like Tom centric drum tracks, right?
Yes.
So all of those things happen, and then you have really cool overdriven power chord guitars from the punk side, and
Okay.
lots of screaming, and all that kind of stuff from the punk world. So it's a really cool fusion of kind of the two sides of my brain and kind of how I function.
All right.
But it's a great record, and he's got another one I think coming out later this year. So it sounded like they recorded about 26 songs, condensed it
Yep.
into a 10 song, and a 10 song put out about 6 months apart. So
Okay.
uh, super
Cool.
super cool. Blood Run Red and Happy Instead are the two standouts from those records for me. So
Okay.
check that out.
I will. I will.
Yeah, I'm anxious to see your thoughts. That may be an offline text conversation that turns into an episode or at least a segment for us.
Yeah. No.
And then the other, go
No. Go
ahead.
ahead. No. Go ahead.
The other record that has been just incredible for me is Tommy Prine's "This Far South."
Yeah.
I don't know. Have you had a chance to listen to that one yet?
I've listened to bits and pieces of it. It's
Yeah,
fantastic.
it's just unreal. So Tommy Prine, for those that don't know, is John Prine's middle son, and he did a record with Rustin Kelly as the producer, and it's as if the writing of John Prine met with an emo backing band, and it's just awesome. It's awesome. I was driving to the airport the other day to drop a friend off, and just weeping driving down 65 and just struggling to get through it. The song By the Way is an homage to his dad,
Mm,
and talking about, hey, I wish I had stayed home more and played card games with you, and I look just like you, and I'm trying to do my own thing, but I miss you and I love you, and just all those things that make you think about the bigger picture in life, and
yeah.
grateful for the legacy of John Prine, but then also really happy that that legacy lives on through a new kind of style of music and all that kind of stuff. So that one's going to be on heavy repeat for me, but after 7 or 8 listens through in the last 48 hours, it's up there for me. Yeah, that's a great record. So
Yeah.
that's mine so far.
Okay. Well, I've of those, I've listened to the Rustin Kelly album, and I've listened to the Jason Isbell album. Not I think I've listened to it maybe once, all the way through, and I've listened to bits and pieces of the Tommy Prine. I think they're all great.
Hmm.
Now, I think you used the song "The Weakness" as your song of the year 2 years in a row. So I may have to,
Oh,
put a ruling out here that you can't use it 3 years in a
okay.
row. Okay.
That's fair. That's
This
fair.
isn't this isn't like the Dove Awards where
No comment.
the song of the year for 2023 may have been released in 2008. What?
Got it.
How does that work? Anyway, no, I'm
Okay.
teasing you.
No.
I'm
We'll
teasing you.
find something fresh for Song of the Year. I can't help it if there's YouTube bootlegs and then the record comes out and then I see him, man. That's just how it works.
I get it.
No, I'm
I
teasing.
get it. All right. I will share some of my choices for best albums of the year so far. One is uh, Voices by the Cold Stairs. Came out in March, and yeah, they've been on tour in Europe for, I don't know, about 5 or 6 weeks. They're back in the States now. I think they head back to England sometime next month for several weeks, and then hopefully they'll be doing some touring here in the States. But Voices, I was very excited about it when it came out. Had the opportunity to listen to it before the release, and um, it's one that just stays in the rotation. Um, and I think Chris is trying to get a new album out in 2023, another new album out in 2023, um, which he's posted some about who the influences are while he's listening to it, what things that he's listened to while he's been writing the album. And you've got Allman Brothers Band and Bad Company and Leonard Skinner and ZZ Top, and I think they've got a new single that's coming out. I think it's the first part of July, and it's the most gorgeous fuzz guitar that I've ever heard. So look for that. But right now, and I'll just say the leader in the clubhouse for me is still Voices. Um, it's a no skips, and
Yep.
so it's fantastic.
That's a fine record, man. So good.
Another one for me is from a band out of the Netherlands called De Wolf, DEWOLFF, De Wolf, and the album's called Love, Death, and In Between, and it's like a psychedelic Southern funk.
All right,
and
I'm intrigued.
And if I understand the recording technique they used, is the whole thing is live to tape, which when you listen to it, it's one thing if you're doing live to tape and you've got a guitar, a bass, a singer, and a drums. This is lots of instrumentation going on, lots of percussion going on, lots of vocals going on, and it's just off the charts great. So check that out. I'd never heard of this band before. Just one of those things I ran across and was immediately blown away. And last one I'll throw out for right now is Bourbon House, fourth album.
Yeah.
Again, we had Lacey and Jason on a couple months ago, and listened to the album a lot leading up to them being on the show. And it's not like, well, I'm sick of this, don't want to listen to this anymore. I'll still go to them, go to their music on a fairly regular basis. And they're working on getting another album out this year as well. So it'll be good to see what happens with them. All right. So we've gone through some whiskey of the year and album of the year. I guess any thoughts or comments on mine album of the year?
I haven't gotten to listen to DeWolf, so definitely gonna have to check them out. I know you've texted me about them, but I haven't really delved into it too much. But I would just echo what you said about the Voices record and Bourbon House 4. Have enjoyed both of those projects tremendously. So if you haven't already, check those guys out. They're awesome.
Yeah. DeWolf may be a good listen driving back from Nashville.
Well, I've got some time tomorrow.
There you go. All right. Now, music experience of the year. That's kind of broad.
This is so hard.
It can be concert. It could be where you sang, or you played somewhere. It could be any kind of experience related to music. But what are your top music experiences so far this year?
Sure. So I'm gonna do a couple things if that's okay, and I'll try to keep this as brief and succinct as possible. But you know how I am. So, far as personal music experience that I got to be a part of, a few weeks ago, probably closing in on a month ago, myself and my band got to open for one of our favorite locals, Sweet Lady.
Yep.
And we were the opening act at 21st Amendment in Germantown, there in Louisville. Shelby Lore Band was the middle act, and then Sweet Lady closed it out. And it was just such a really, cool experience, kind of a full circle moment for us. The first place that I ever played after deciding to pick up a guitar again and really think about music again as an integral part of my life post all my mess from a few years ago was 21st Amendment. and it was an open mic with a bunch of very vulgar stand-up comedians, some really
I
bad
remember that.
slam poets. Yeah, I think you were there. And I had maybe one or two songs that were more so journal entries or self-therapy, uh, and they were no good. But I got back up on a stage for the first time and tried to reintegrate music as a part of my life. And, a little over 2 years later, here we are with our show, having the guys in my band back in my life and having those relationships be healed and full again, and to make music with those guys, along with one of our favorite bands and somebody that you and I both love, was a really cool moment for me. The music of it was fantastic, but more so just all that it represented. So to have my fiance, to have you there, to have Mark there, to have Evan there, and just everybody that has walked with me through so many seasons of life, and just do some things that we loved all together felt really great. So that was
Yeah,
definitely up there for me.
yeah,
So
yeah,
that was a big deal. That was
yeah,
a big deal. So
yeah. I
pretty
think
cool.
that first time you were playing at uh, 21st Germantown, uh, after seeing those comedians on open mic, that was when I was convinced. Okay, I could do that.
Yeah.
I could I could do that, and I could do that without any prep and not be that bad.
Yeah,
Now,
yeah.
I tip of the cap that they were up there and you put yourself out there, and that's tough to
Sure.
do, but they were awful.
Yeah, yeah.
They were awful. But
Um,
that's when I started working on my comedy bit. So,
okay. Well, I need to
no,
see that. So we'll
yeah,
we'll bring that in for a later show this year.
yeah, but maybe we won't. But um, maybe we won't. All right. So, what else you got?
Second one for me was it's kind of an overarching theme, but the Monarch Club opening here in Louisville
Hmm.
has been just tremendous. Not only from an opportunity to connect with other artists and to see some great shows, but the one kind of show that stands out to me is seeing Scott Smith
Mhm.
play there. Scott T. Smith is a guy that my fiance Caitlin knows from college. He's an incredible singer songwriter, got Eastern Kentucky and West Virginia Appalachian kind of roots. An amazing writer, an amazing singer, and we saw him with a couple of our close friends probably 6 months ago.
Mhm.
Maybe not even that far. I think it was March, and just not a dry eye in the house. Just surrounded by wonderful friends, an incredible place. And if you haven't got to see a show at the Monarch, I would encourage you, if you're in the Louisville area, to
Yep.
go there. Every show starts with a reminder to listen and clap and to turn off your phone. And everything's, supportive of the artist, supportive of
Right.
local music. Every single dollar that gets made in that place goes directly to the artists that are playing. It's really kind of I hesitate to use this word because I don't know if it comes across in the wrong way, but it really feels like a sacred place where something special is happening for a devoted reason for a devoted amount of time.
Mhm.
And it's just really special to get to see Scott there and to get to be a part of that community and that group. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I would say the Monarch as a whole, but the Scott Smith show there
Yeah.
was pretty outstanding.
Yeah. Cindy and I went to the Monarch and saw Dusty Bowe and Sarah Jean Kelly play.
Yeah.
I guess it was a couple weeks ago, and we're rushing to get out there because doors were at 7. We're not getting there till like 7:45, and this is not a big place, and
Yep.
so we're rushing and trying to find a place to park and get. Uh, walk in, and it's like there are 2 people there. I'm like,
Uh-huh.
am I in the wrong place? Am I
Hmm.
here on the wrong night? Nope. Everybody just kind of shows up. I mean, they're all musicians. I
Yep.
mean, I think 80% of the people there were musicians, and they're there
Hmm.
supporting one another, which is cool. But
So great. Yeah.
musicians aren't necessarily known for being the most timely, punctual individuals. Not saying anything about you, Drew. Not at all. But that's kind of the way it goes. But
Hmm.
um, you know, show was supposed to start at 8. At 8 o'clock, there were like 9 people there. By 8:20, the place is completely packed, and so the show started a little later. It didn't matter. It was fantastic. It just it's a very cool place, and
Special. Yeah.
yeah, and I the guy that runs it, what's his name?
Mark Roberts.
Mark. Yeah, I talked with Mark
Yeah.
a little bit, asked him about being on the show. So we'll get him on here sometime. But I want to find out if there are places like this in other cities, because I think there's got to be.
Sure.
I think this. I'm not to say that this isn't unique, because it is, especially in Louisville. But I want to find out where's this going on other places and be able to promote that as well. So,
Yep. Absolutely.
all right, enough of me
Cool.
stepping all over your
No,
list. So go ahead.
not at all. I'm glad we had a similar experience at that place. So the other one, and this is probably the one that will take me a second to talk about, but it's Bonnaroo Music Festival as a whole. I saw over 6 days 22 concerts, and those 22 concerts took place over 4 days. But it is just an incredible part of my year for the last few years, and getting to kind of set aside a few days just for music. I know my phone's not going to work. I know my email's not going to come through from work or anything like that. And I just get to enjoy music with my closest friends.
Yeah.
So it was a really, really special year. Couple of standouts. Got to see Matt Mason and Noah Kahn, both whose albums I loved
Right.
this year. So that was really awesome. And then one guy that I'd never seen live that's been a huge kind of influence on my songwriting and my own music is Tyler Childers. So got to see Tyler Childers, waited in line about 3 hours to get into the pit, and was about 4 people back. And the one of the cool things about Tyler's newest record is he did the "Can I Take My Hounds to Heaven" was the record, and he did 3
Yes.
different versions of each track.
Yeah. It's
And
fantastic. Yeah.
because he was in Tennessee, he had full horn section, full string section, full background singing choir, and then his normal 5-piece rhythm section. So there was the most musicians he ever had on stage at one time was 32.
Wow.
But there was usually between 15 and 20 people playing at a time. And then 3 or 4 tracks near the end, he had the full 32 piece. It was an orchestra. I don't know another way to put that. It was really, really special. Got to hear some stuff that he had done earlier. Got to hear a bunch of stuff off the new record. And then he debuted a brand new song that he had written a few days before. And it was just magic. I don't know
Yeah.
another way to put it, but that is one of those talents that's just on another level from what most folks are doing. So that
Yeah.
show was really, really special for me. And
Yeah.
I'll tell you offline some stories about how hard it was to get into the pit and how my fiance smacked a man with his or with her fan in the face because he was trying to jump over the gates to get into the pit. But
That seems on point.
yeah, it's tracks if you know
Yeah.
Kayla.
Yeah.
But anyway, it was an amazing show, an incredible experience. I was so glad I got to share that with her and got to share that with 2 of our dear, dear friends here in town. So that was awesome. The other standout show, and there's 10 of them, but the other highlight was seeing the Foo Fighters close the festival. So the very last night of Bonnaroo, one of the kind of unspoken rules is there's no time limit.
Right.
So Sunday night of the festival, everything is over when the headliner starts. There's no other shows. There's nothing else going on. And so we sat there and we watched Paramore, who's a great band from kind of my teenage
Yeah.
years, kind of in the pop punk vein. Take about a 30-minute break and then they switch over for the Foo Fighters. And Foo Fighters came out and just ripped the roof off the place. And there's no roof. So they
Right.
ripped the sky off the place. And they brought out Haley Williams, who's the lead singer of Paramore.
Yeah.
It was Father's Day that Sunday when we saw them. So Dave Grohl, the lead singer of the Foo Fighters, brought out his daughters to sing with him. They played Van Halen covers. They played Devo covers. They played Nine Inch Nails covers.
Yeah.
And just
Didn't they
put
do
on
a
killer
Beastie
show.
Boys cover as well?
They didn't do it. They started it, and Dave was
Okay.
like, "I don't know the effing words, and I'm not going to do the song if I don't know the words." Kind of a bit. But it was pouring rain. It was myself, Caitlin, one of our other friends, sitting on a blanket after 5 days of music, just taking it all in. And a band that I haven't seen in 13 years, but was my first concert ever. So to get to
Yeah.
close the festival that means so much, and with the people that mean so much to me, and a band that means so much to me, um, was just really, really special. They
Yep.
did an incredibly moving Taylor Hawkins tribute. It was just really, really cool. So my third experience was Bonnaroo as a whole, but those two shows, Tyler Childers and the Foo Fighters. So there you
Cool.
go. It's
Cool.
going to be tough to
So,
top that in the latter half of 23.
yeah. How was Josh Freese as a drummer?
He was unreal. Um, you know that you and I have talked offline about how hard it is to join that band. Um, and particularly to join that band as a drummer, because you have who is arguably one of the greatest rock drummers of all time in Dave Grohl as the frontman.
Right.
He's 3-track drums on a couple of albums for other drummers. He's pretty particular. Um,
Right.
but Josh Freese added a really good dimension. You can tell that he's a seasoned player. The other thing that I think was really nice is Taylor Hawkins didn't play a lot of double bass, double kick drum bass,
Right.
and Josh Freese did. And so it was just different enough that you felt like, okay, this is a new dimension, this is a new flavor to the band, but it was honoring what Taylor had set as the foundation
Yeah.
of that band. It was really neat to see.
Well,
I'm sure there's a million opinions out there online, but
yeah.
it was cool to see, and I felt like it was a an honorable tribute. That's
Yeah.
the word I would use.
Yeah. It's a tough spot to be in because you don't want, I don't think you want, if you're the drummer, if you're Josh, and I think if you're the fans, you don't want him to come in and just pretend like he's Taylor Hawkins.
Right.
Okay.
Absolutely.
But like you alluded to, if you're coming into the Foo Fighters, the leader of the band has a pretty good idea what he wants the drums to sound like.
Yeah.
And there's a history of if the drums didn't sound like the way he wanted them to, he'll send you packing and he'll do them himself.
Yep.
So it sounds like they've got a nice uh, compromise there where he's bringing in some new different elements
hmm
to the drums, but not trying to make a complete departure from what Taylor had done and what Dave had been doing too. So
Yeah.
that's good.
I think so. Yeah. It was cool. If you get a chance to see them, I don't think they're doing much outside of the festival circuit, but if they do a tour at some point, definitely check that out.
Yeah, I'm sure tickets will be very easy to come by and very affordable too. So
Yeah.
yeah. All right. Anyway, um, those are three. Any others right now?
Um, just an honorable mention. I'm a pop punk emo kid at heart. I got to see Dashboard Confessional and Jimmy Eat World in January. Um, Dashboard Confessional was awesome. Jimmy Eat World should have stopped about 8 years ago. So we'll just end it there, and we'll stop with that commentary.
Okay.
But that was pretty cool.
All right.
Probably
All right.
shouldn't have even brought that one up.
Well, yeah, I wrote it down. I probably just scribbled over it.
That's fine.
So for me, music experience of the year, um, one that was on my list was on your list, and that was the show that you and your band did with Shelby Lore Band and Sweet Lady at 21st Germantown. That was just a ton of fun. Um, I wanted to take the the iPad soundboard from the guy that was running it and lock him in a closet because he just wasn't paying attention like he needed to. But the show
It's a
itself
very kind way of saying that.
the show itself was fantastic, and it was fun to see you on the same stage with our friends at Sweet Lady. Now, and they're kind of in a second one of mine. They probably could have been three of mine if I wanted. Okay, um, but they opened for Mojo Thunder at
Hmm.
Zanzibar in April. They weren't originally scheduled to, and the opening act canceled like day of show, and they called Chris and said, "Hey, can you guys make it?" And they did, and so it probably was the best I've ever seen. Sweet Lady,
Mm.
um, and Mojo Thunder was great. It had been a while since I'd seen them live, but they were terrific. Then lastly would be the Cold Stairs album release show in Nashville. Uh,
Yeah.
Dirty Streets open for them, and they're fantastic. Great band um, out of Memphis, and then the Cold Stairs just kicked it, and it was at the basement uh, in Nashville. And if you've ever been to the basement in Nashville, it it's not in the basement, but it might as well be because it's a tiny venue, and those guys played loud. So it was great. It was a lot of fun.
Awesome.
A lot of fun. So
I love it.
those are my three. I know I've got a couple big concerts coming up this year. We're going to see Tedeschi Trucks a month from now in St. Louis. Then Eric Clapton Sep-
Right.
September 8th in Pittsburgh. Yeah,
Great. I
it,
was going
it
to ask if you had anything else that you were looking forward to that might be at our year wrap up. So
yeah
that's pretty two heavy hitters.
yeah. I'm hoping that well, I've seen Tedeschi Trucks often enough that I know what I'm getting, and even if I go in with very high expectations, it's usually been a year or two since I've seen them.
Hmm.
So I forget how high it should sit the expectations.
Most definitely.
Yeah. So it'll be the first time I'll have a chance to see them uh, after the release of the I Am the Moon albums. So
Very good.
that'll be fun. And Clapton, I think he's just, I don't even call it a tour. He's going to 5 cities this year.
Yeah,
So Pittsburgh was the closest.
that'll be
Although
great.
they're also going to Minneapolis. I could have just gone up there and crashed with Gorman.
Hey,
I don't
that'd be
think
fun.
he wouldn't care.
Yeah,
He
he
wouldn't
didn't.
care. He
He
wouldn't
may
care.
not even be there anyway. He's probably touring.
Hopefully.
That'd be sweet.
Oh,
I was
now
gonna-
see, that's another one I'm looking forward to in August. Bagman will be playing up in Northern Kentucky, and
Yep,
we've definitely got to go to that. So
most definitely. Are you going to do any other things in Kentucky this year? Any of the Bourbon and Beyond or Louder Than Life lineup or any of that?
I don't have plans to currently.
Okay.
We'll just kind of see if we get close to it. Um, you know, the thing about those is there always seem to be tickets floating around
Yeah.
um, that you can get and not have to pay a stupid amount of money.
Yep.
So I don't know. I'll just see what's out there that I want to hit, and if the mood hits me at that time, then I'll do it. But
Sure. Well, I was gonna say that's another good chance to see the Foo Fighters if you're so inclined. I think they're the Sunday closer
yeah,
at Louder Than Life. But yeah.
yeah.
Well, I was gonna say I'm about 3 weeks away from seeing a double headliner act here in Nashville of Chris Stapleton and George Strait.
Oh yeah,
Very excited about that one. Um, that'll probably be in my year-end wrap up. But
yeah. Where are you seeing them? There.
Nissan Stadium in
Oh,
Nashville.
okay. The
Yeah,
stadium. Wow.
yeah, they sold out back-to-back nights. I think the George Strait tour has a total of 7 dates on it, and they're all about a month apart. So he's taking it real easy and cruising in that retirement
Yeah,
cash grab
yeah.
money. But I was looking at his Spotify and the other day, and it is amazing to me how many number one singles he has,
Oh
and then
yeah.
how many absolute banger hits he has that didn't make it to number one. I think he has something like 31 or 32 number one Billboard chart in the country and Western charts or
Yeah.
something like that. And then the man's just been a hit factory for 40 years. So I'm excited to get to see him. I've never gotten to see him live.
Yeah, I was just pulling up Best of George Strait. Holy cow.
Yeah.
Amarillo by Morning. I mean, you start there and then.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I was joking around the other day with a buddy of mine. I think that man was made in a lab. He married his high school sweetheart. He was a service member. Unfortunately and tragically, I don't mean to make light of this, but he lost a child in a tragic way. And then he's a real deal Texas cowboy. Um, the man was a simulation creation to be a country music star. He's got it all, and he writes it through. So
yep.
Yeah.
No, if you said AI create a country music star, I think okay, create a good country music star.
Right.
That's what would get spit out. If you say create
important delineation.
If you say create a country music star, I think we're all very afraid of what we would get. But Morgan something, I don't know.
Yeah, we
Anyway,
don't talk about him on this podcast. That's anathema to us.
The name that shall not be mentioned. All right. All right. So ask you this real quick, and we kind of talked about this at one point, but didn't really get into it too much. Do you have any of our shows that were that you say, hey, this is I got a friend, they've not heard the show before. These are the shows that they should listen to. What would you say?
Yeah. I think I have two of them. One of those would be the most recent ones we did with Steve Gorman, parts 1 and part 2. For those that haven't gotten to kind of hear from Steve and kind of see what we did with him last year and all that kind of stuff, it's just a great introduction to some killer music. A guy that just gets it. And if you need an encyclopedia of music history and sports history, that's your guy. So if you're into either of those things, and he gets into the whiskey side of things with us as well, those are some great shows. The other one would be the one I think we did. It might have been late January, early February with Chris Tapp. That was the second time we'd had him on, and the rawness and the vulnerability of that guy, and just his willingness to kind of talk us through his songwriting process, how he deals with guitar stuff, how he takes his life experience and translates it into what they do on the record. It's just incredible. It feels like we captured a little bit of magic in a bottle in those couple episodes. Not that anybody hasn't been great. We've had some incredible shows this year, but those two are standouts for me. What about you?
Yeah, it's kind of hard. It's kind of like, which kid do you like the best? And but I mean, if we're honest, there's some shows that are better than others. I would agree. The shows that we did with Steve were a lot of fun. I think that we had a good time, but I think if you listen to it, you would really enjoy those two. The show with Chris Tapp from the Cold Stairs, I agree. He's just very transparent about who he is, what he believes, what his music's about. And if you like that, great. If you don't, it's okay too. He's not trying to win every single person over to him. I had fun doing our Dark Side of the Moon show.
Yeah, that was fun.
We had Alan on and Mike from Whiskey Den. The show that we did with David Levine was, I thought that turned out really well, and had some great conversation about the importance of being authentic with labeling and how you market your brand. I thought that was really good. He had some great things to say on that subject. And then the shows we did with Todd Leopold were just,
oh yeah,
those were were fantastic too. So we've got a lot of good stuff. So if you have some shows that you may have missed, jump in. Golly, I'm just kind of scrolling through this right now. We had Jason Fruits on. We had Dusty Bow. The Distill America show with Fred Swanson was a lot of fun. We had Chris.
Those are always a blast.
Chris Canis. He was great. He was just a great guest. We had the guys from All Things Blues and Southern Rock, Brian and Jason. Phil Collin was a ton of fun. He's a guy that we need to get him on again soon.
One of the best Twitter follows out there. One of the positive bright lights in the hellscape that is Twitter.
Yes.
Phil.
Yes. We had a two-parter with Pat Heist. That was great. And then we started the year off with Jason Bronner. We need to get out and do a show live from his new place, because it's the Buzzard Juice Whiskey Experience on Main Street in Louisville. Should not be missed. It is fantastic. So anyway, we got a lot of good stuff out there. So as you're traveling through the summer and you're trying to figure out what I'll listen to while I'm traveling, just start scrolling through Bourbon Turntable, find some that you haven't listened to, and give it a go. And because there's some good stuff out there, and I'm not saying we necessarily break a sweat, but we work pretty hard to get you good content, and we hope that you enjoy it, and we appreciate everybody that does listen and share our shows. So, all right, Drew, anything else?
Not that I can think of at the moment. If you are so inclined, tune in next week. We're having our friends from Sweet Lady back on the show. So that is always a good time. Both Kevin and I mentioned them as some of our favorite musical moments. If you're in and around the Louisville, Cincinnati, even Nashville to an extent areas, catch a show, check them out, follow them on social media. You are going to be in for a fantastic and rip-roaring evening. So we're excited to have those guys back on and check in and see what's new with them.
Yeah, they're continuing to do their tribute to the Tres Hombres album 50th anniversary, where they'll play a set with their own stuff, their own music. Then they'll play a set that is they're playing the Tres Hombres album from beginning to end. So it's really, really good. So check that out. Now, Drew, where can everybody find you on social media?
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram at drew.crawley63. That's kind of the most up-to-date, quickly responded to place to find dates and new music and things of that. And then drewcrawleymusic.com is kind of the hub to everything. I've mentioned on the last show, but we just finalized dates for the next part of this year. Those will be updated as soon as I get back home from the studio, and hopefully we'll have a dozen or more dates for you to come out and check something out live in either Kentucky or West Virginia or Ohio coming up. So
awesome!
Excited to see you guys out there.
Awesome. As for us, you can watch the show on YouTube. Yeah, you're sitting here, you're watching the show now. Hit the subscribe button. Mike already told you to, and if you didn't do what Mike said, shame on you. All right.
Sure.
So you can watch the show on YouTube. You can listen to the show on your favorite podcast platform, as long as it's Apple, Spotify, or Google. We've got our own Facebook page where we post all of our shows. We have our Facebook group where our little community gets together and they share the things that they're drinking and what they're listening to while they're drinking it, or what they're listening to and what they're drinking while they're listening to it, if that makes sense. I think it did. But anyway, a lot of fun. We try to promote all of the artists that have been on our show, or anybody that we think you would find relevant. If something's going on for them tour wise, or album release wise, we're going to share that with you as well. Another thing, I didn't do it this week because I wasn't feeling good, but most every Friday, I'll release a little Spotify playlist called Four for Friday. Four for Friday. And it's 4 new songs that have come out recently. It may be that week that it was released. It may have been, a week or two before, but it's always going to be something that is new, something that's fresh, something that, we hear people say a lot, I don't know where to find new music. Well, that's what we're trying to help you with. And if you think about the artists and the albums that we shared today as far as album of the year, my guess is that most of you probably know Jason Isbell, and some of the others if you've listened to our show before. But a lot of what we're sharing with you are people that are making great music that you can go see live and not spend a fortune to see them. So anyway, all that being said, until next time, on behalf of Drew and myself, cheers, love, and free bird.
Good night.
Good night.